Hi, gang. I just want to do a quick disclaimer before we get into this video on repairing the folding stock uh, shock absorber in the Franchi SPAS 12 shotgun. Um, Chris at SPAS12.com offers replacements as well as other parts for the shotgun. Chris does this because he's a nice guy. It's not a real business with him. And let's face it, there's not that many people out there that own these things. Uh, I'm looking at, they made 37,000 of them. I don't know how many are in the hands of Americans. I'm told 1,800, possibly, if there's still that many right now. But Chris is just providing a service out of a passion for this particular firearm, I guess. He offers the buffer tube absorbers and the stock recoil shock absorbers and O-rings and that kind of stuff. And he's limited in how he can respond because you can't just go out and buy a few hundred of these things and then hope, invest in all that and hope that somebody's going to come around and buy them all up. So he's taking a little bit of a risk. Of course, he's very prudent in taking his time to restock as he runs out, and he's always, as far as I know, he's always helped out the people who have ordered the parts. The purpose of this video is if you need an immediate repair and you order one of these buffers from Chris, and he's going to be a few weeks or something out on his next delivery, here's a fix for you, and you can get back into action by tomorrow. So in no way am I trying to step on Chris's toes. I think he's doing an admirable thing here, and we love him for that, especially for his passion for this sport or hobby, whatever. So thank you, Chris, and take a look at his website. It's SPAS12, and he's got a lot of good stuff up there you can read up, history and technical and all kinds of things. So, all right, that's the disclaimer. Let's get on to the show. Okay, gang, here we go. It's Bob, the gun doctor, and before we start, let me apologize for this video. We're doing it on the fly, but I promised a few people we'd get it up here. Thank you for all your emails and my nearby friends who keep pestering me about this thing. We've had, this is number 4 of these rascals coming in here to be fixed, and you know where. That's what this video is about. Down there in that stupid recoil buffer that rests on the pin. Let's get the pin. These pins, they're probably metric, but they come out to just under 7/16 or 0.437 inches. And let's get to this quick here. Here's a chart of hose sizes. I'm talking about fuel line, gasoline hose. It's impervious to oil, all petroleum distillates, oil, gas, and all that. UV and ozone and all that. I don't know if it's neoprene or sanaprene they're using now, but it's pretty good stuff. Anyhow, I found that number 10 and this is 13, but I use number 12, work pretty good if you want to make a replacement bumper for this here pin for that there hole. Again, this is almost 7/16. It's just a little under. We have 2 methods of doing this. The one I'm showing you now is the fuel line. And here we are. Number 10 is 484 ID, 625 or 5/8 outside. Number 10 means 10/16 or 5/8. And we use some number 12. These are both going to be just about an inch long. The actual drawing here, where are we? We want it to be 25 thousandths over, but an inch long is fine. A little bit more if you want. We're going to grind it down anyhow when we're done. Make these edges nice and smooth. But what I did was on the first one, and I'm going back to 2014, 13 or 14 maybe. The guy puts a few hundred rounds a year through his gun. I looked at it the other day, well, a couple weeks ago. It's still holding up. The thing I don't like about the the fuel hose or fuse hose is it's kind of soft. The durometer is probably down around 40 or 50. We want to get up around 80 or, hard, not medium hard. But nonetheless, it's holding up. It's just not absorbing the recoil the way I'd like to see it, and probably compressing fully under some of the shots. What'll happen in time if this plunger on the pin here, this plunger, slams against that hole enough times, it's going to start cracking this sheet metal, which is very hard. They've got this stuff hardened and tempered, but over time, that lateral force, axial force coming back, transfers to a lateral force against here in this direction, and will eventually oval this hole or even crack it a little bit. So what we did is we took these two hoses. I heated up the number 12. Actually, I heated up a pin. I don't know if anything is tapered. Here's a punch pin that's tapered. I don't know if you can see that. Sorry for the lighting. But, something tapered that'll fit inside. I don't have one here to show you. I made two. I gave him both. He didn't need the second one, so he's got a spare. But I heated up that pin, and I stuck it inside, and here's the notes if you want to freeze the video and make a copy of that. Expand with a reamer or that tapered pin and shove it in there, and if it's hot enough, it'll stretch the rubber out that you could slide the number 10 inside. Now what you want to do is grease up the outside of the number 10 so that it slides right into the hole that you've just stretched open. It's going to be tight because you're going to be off by about 15 thousandths or so, but you can do it. It's no problem. And that's the quick fix. I don't have one here, like I said, but I thought maybe, there's a better way. So I was looking around, and I found some of this direct burial hose. It's 5/8 hose. Let me get it in the light here. It's 5/8 hose. It's fairly rigid. You can see the spirals on it. And it's 5/8 outside, and what do we want on the outside? Rather, 5/8 on the inside, and we want where's that method? We want to be up around here, 810 to 825. This is the actual bushing that Luigi used, Mr. Franchi. Apparently, they don't have very many chemists or chemical guys on their engineering team. To use the rubber they used in here and over in here, we'll get to that in the next video, on the buffer tube bumper, those materials are crappy. So apparently they weren't, unless they wanted service. Maybe, if you're in the police department over in Italy or in the army and using these things for riot control or whatever they use them for, maybe they wanted them turned in, and who would know? They're out there training with them, and they recoil, and the guy says, yeah, so what, it recoils, and sees a piece of rubber on the ground. You don't know where it came from. Guns are made out of metal, not rubber, so there's probably a few of them laying around in the Italian arsenal that are broken. Anyhow, so what I did was I took a 7/16 piece of drill rod. You could use the backside of a drill, 7/16, 437. I polished it up, nice and shiny, and then I put some lithium grease on it to keep it smooth. And I took some Viton heat shrink tubing, which is found in electrical stores. Hang on, let me grab a piece of that. All right, here we go. You could get this stuff at on eBay or whatever. It's electrical insulation and it's heat shrink tubing, and you just I can't do this with one hand, but it opens up and you know, you slide it over the electrical wires that you're going to insulate and splice and whatever you do with electrical wiring. Anyhow, what I used was a size 1/2 inch and 5/8. Now remember that the Viton heat shrink tubing, HST they call it, if you're looking, shrinks to about 50%. So the 1/2 inch will go down to 1/4, best case, and the 5/8 down to 5/16. So here's what I did. I took the rod, and if you look down the center, I don't know if you can see it so well. You can probably see it better this way. Let me get this. You can see it down over the shaft there. There are 7 layers of that heat shrink tubing. Don't forget to grease the rod because this stuff is going to bite in. You'll never get it off. I put 1 layer on, heated it up, watched it shrink down real nice, and did it again and again. And here's the chart. If you want to freeze the video, you might want to do a screen grab of that. I did wrap 1, 2, 3, and 4 with the 1/2 inch material. See, 1/2 inch Viton. Shrinking each one at a time. It's not as bad as it seemed. It took me 20 minutes. Then I went to the 5/8 Viton heat shrink tubing, and I did this. And these are the diameters I ended up with. I ended up with 610. Well, the inside of this hose here's the section that I cut off of that big piece I showed you. The inside of that is 5/8 because it's 5/8 hose. So the difference between 610 and 625 is 15 thousandths. That's a 64th. It's a few thousandths on each side. I coated the outside of the Viton and the inside of the hose with goop. Goop is an excellent rubber cement. It's all weather and temperature, and it doesn't mind being frozen or heating up too much outside. It works outside well. So I put that on. Let this sit overnight, and let me slide this off now. See how nice it is? You got to grease it, baby. Don't put it on there if you don't grease it. And again, I apologize. This is terrible production. But there it is. Okay? These are the dimensions you want. It's about 810 to 825 OD. And just a little over 7/16, 437 ID. So we're going to grind this down, and we're going to put it in to La Shotgun. This will be I'm pretty sure it's number 4. It might be number 5. I'm not sure. We have other methods. I've showed you 2 today. The fuel line one, this one, which we haven't finished yet. That'll be in part 2 of this. The third method is using actual industrial bumpers. I'm waiting on those from McMaster. They should be in today. We'll include that in the third segment of this. So stand by. Let me grind this thing down, and we'll take it from there. All right, here we go. There's that puppy all ground down. And it's gray, not black. If you want, paint the damn thing. Anyhow, it fits. That's just a hair over an inch long. Fits nice. I'm going to try to do this one-handed. But, okay, we're locked. You notice it locked without no slack. You didn't hear any noise. That's against the rubber now. Now, let me see if I can show you. I'm pushing. It's hard to do this. pushing hard. All I'm feeling is the rubber. I mean, it's really hard. If you look very carefully, I'm pushing really hard now and letting up. If you look at this corner, look right here where the two come together. Let me put a pencil mark there. All right. You see that little pencil mark? I am not Cecil B. DeMille, so I don't know if you can see it, but here. Push. Anyhow, the buffer, shock absorber, is buffering. It's shock absorbing. What more can I say? Easy to do. We're going to have the third version a little later on, which will be the actual industrial buffer. Like I said, the chemical engineers, boy, oh boy. I'll give you a jump on it. It's a McMaster part. There it is. It comes with a molded in plate with a threaded bushing. That's what it looks like. When you get this thing, what you're going to have to do is put a bolt in here and heat the bolt up, not this part. Heat the bolt up with your Bernzomatic or something and get it hot and put a pair of pliers on and just wiggle this thing out. Or just use brute force and pry it out. Then you got to open up. Well, you know what? I'm saving that for that part. I don't want to be redundant. All right. Thank you for looking. It's Bob, the gun doctor. They call me that because I like to hand out pills to people. Someday I'm going to show you about that wheel for the, these things that break, and they do break. That's a steel one, and I decided to I got a dim one carbine thing in here. Heresy, I don't care. I did that a long time ago. Anyhow, I got to get this thing back together and give it to the guy. So hopefully we'll finish this video pretty soon. Thank you for looking. Support our troops. God bless America. We love you all. Stay COVID free, you guys. Bye-bye. Well, hi, guys. It's Bob. We're back. It's about 24 hours later. But how would you know that? You've got no way of knowing that, right? This is magic. This is digital video. It's all magic. All right, let me update you on a few things here. We talked about having 3 methods of replacing the shock absorber in here, and I just want to show you. I'm playing with this last night, and watch that pin, the plunger pin, in the clearance hole. I'm squeezing this sucker hard as I can. It's really not contacting that back wall. If I can get a focus on it. If you pull it this way, of course, it will, because the buffer's out of play. But here's where it's just starting to contact. Look at that space on the right-hand side of the plunger. I'm squeezing, 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 squeezing. Okay, I think that's all I got in my hand. Those are not little hands, boys and girls. That's going to work. Again, there it is. I will pull it out and paint it. I'm going to spray it with the Krylon. Use lacquer, not enamel, when you do this kind of work, because the solvents in lacquer tend to penetrate the surface of the host material, and enamels tend to just sit on the top, sit on the outside. So, and I think we get a nice, that'll come out a nice flat black. So we'll do that. Now, let me tell you something. This happens quite often to Dr. Bob. Yesterday, I received the parts from McMaster. It's a nice, very high durometer bushings with the floor plate in them, threaded. And if you recall what I said in the for method number 3, remember we had the heat shrink tubing and the garden hose, the direct burial water hose is method 1. No, I'm sorry. It was the fuel line, number 10, number 12. Insert number 10 into number 12, and you'll have a viable replacement for this. A little too soft, if you recall. I don't remember what I said. It was yesterday. So if I'm repeating myself, go make a sandwich. Number 2 method was this guy with the direct burial garden hose and the heat shrink tubing to fill up the center hole. There were 7 layers of that, as you recall. They're about 15 thousandths wall on those. So it takes 7 layers to fill it up. And, of course, the 3rd layer that I mentioned was this rascal from McMaster. And I'm playing with it last night. I said, the guy brought it. Let me do it before I go to bed. And I started machining, and disaster struck. Now, I don't know if they changed the material or what happened, but I was drilling out the bushing that's in there. There's the little bushing. And as you can see, there's rubber stuck to it all the way. It vulcanized right to the steel. A terribly tenacious bond between the rubber and the steel. So I did get it out. It mangled the hell out of the bushing. I drilled my hole through. It didn't come out round, and it split the bushing. This, my friends, is a different material than I used the last time several years ago. So skip that process. This had me befuddled, baffled, and bewildered all at the same time. I did not know what to do. I did use, I don't know where they are right now. I did use my barrel jaws to hold this thing round in the vise so it wasn't distorted. If you squeeze this in a vise, you're not going to drill it out right. It'll be all squished into an oval and it won't come out right. I did everything correct, took it nice and easy, but that material just will not machine, so something changed. All right. I'm not going to go to bed angry at myself. So I took another one and I cut it back. Here's the other one. The whole one. I cut it behind the steel plate with a utility knife. Just worked my way around and around. And you can see the back is closed. And it came out nice. This is beautiful material for this SPAS 12 buffer. So all this has to do now is go in the lathe, or you just throw it in the milling machine. If you're careful, you do it by hand with a hand drill. Start with about 3/16 of an inch. Make sure you go straight through both sides so you're centered on both sides, and just keep expanding. The problem is this material likes to grab the drill. You're going to get a lot of heat, you're going to get a lot of smoke, and it is foul smelling, this stuff. And I don't recall that with the old bumpers, the old McMaster bumpers. It may not be toxic, but it sure is noxious. It gets in your nose, and you're going to remember it for a few hours. So I'm not so sure I want to include this in my recommendation of fixing Mr. Luigi's shotgun. Here, by the way, is the broken one that we found. I don't know. Nobody has any idea where the other half of this thing is. And it's brittle as stale Rice Krispies. I don't know. It's just falling apart. So, recommendation: go back to it. Go to version 2 and go through the heat shrink tubing things. You could actually, and here's the trick. If you go through these 7 with the first 4 with half-inch material and the second 3 with 5/8 material, when you get that all together and you glue it into the hose, as we did, I don't even know where I put it now. As you glue it into the direct burial guard, make sure you get direct burial garden hose. It's really hard material. It's very dense, and it's a little hard to work with, but worth every precious second of it. When you glue it in there, let it set overnight, and you can actually come in and remove the first layer that gives you the 457 OD. That will make putting it on the plunger pin a little bit easier. You don't have to, and it won't make much difference. You're talking about 15 thousandths, and I don't think it's a big deal. If you want to go after this silly stuff from McMaster and play around, here's the sheet. I'll scan it, and you could freeze frame it and save it and print it, whatever you want to do. It's part number 83, called the butt plate shock absorber by Dr. Bob. There's the notes. You can pry out the insert or heat up a threaded in screw and try to pull it out. I hope you have more luck than me. There's the dimensions. Diameter. There's the quick start guide, as they say. Okay. And some specs on the original part and what you're trying to replicate here. Durometer is hard. It is beautiful material, I believe. And because it's petro and acid free, it'll survive soakings in gun oil and all that for years to come. I believe it's UV rated too, in ozone as well. So, but there's the part number. Write that down. I'm going to give you 5 more seconds. Write down that number if you want to do it. I would say don't. But there you go. All right. Went real long on this. Here is this very valuable piece of hardware. I told the guys, I don't care what you do to the gun, but take care of this folding stock thing. Treat it nicely, because someday you may want to part out the gun after you shoot it out. He does a couple 100 rounds a year or something, and maybe he's lying, I don't know. Maybe he does 500 or 1,000, I don't know. But here you go. I've seen these things go for a fortune on ePay, and you will pay. All right, gang, have a great day. We love you all. Stay safe, and we're looking for the next video. Here's a teaser. It's more SPAS 12. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.